I'm Nicholeen Peck, and I'm answering the question today, is it okay to ignore a child? What do you think? Sometimes people think if you ignore them, it could be better. We're going to be talking about that today. I teach parenting all over the world through the lens of the principle self-government. And in this video, what we're going to be doing is we're going to be discussing ignoring. Many people think ignoring is a good way to handle a problem. It is, and it isn't. So let's talk about that. First, we're going to touch on it is, because it very rarely is. Very rarely. You don't usually want to ignore your children. That gives the wrong impression. But sometimes when a child is pushing again and again, and the child does not belong to you, you've tried to be assertive with them and said, hey, what you're doing right now is this, that's not okay, and they still keep attacking you in some way, sometimes you just have to say, you know what, that's not going to hijack this whole rest of this group. So I'm thinking maybe you're working in a church group or a community group or a school group or something, and you've got one person who seeks negative attention, who is rude, belligerent, and you've talked to them about the problem, but it persists. Well, at that point, you cannot gyp everybody else in the group, so that might be the one time where you just ignore it. And you say, you know what, I'm going to be here for everybody else right now. You don't say that out loud. In your head, you say this, okay? I'm going to be here for everybody else right now, which means I just can't let that be a thing. I have to just push it aside so that everybody else will hopefully be able to push it aside. And then, of course, later, what? We're going to talk to the parent of that child and let them know it's not really a fit for them to be there, or they need to help them overcome that because it's not really kind to do to everybody else. So that might be a time when ignoring something is an okay thing. Also, it could be sometimes when there is a child who you're working on one target issue, maybe they have 10 target issues that you could work on, okay? But we know we've got to start small because they're going to get overwhelmed. So when I was doing therapeutic treatment care, sometimes I had to ignore some behaviors and then so that I could still address one. But I never really ignored the child. Right? So we know the child's there and what's going on with the child, but we don't ignore the child. We might have to ignore a behavior until we lay a foundational behavior. So I'm not going to be able to help my child overcome an addiction if they don't first understand accepting a no answer. So first we might work for a week on accepting a no answer, and then we might address whatever that addiction is to try to help them give themselves a no answer when they're feeling a craving to, do gaming or whatever it is that it might be their addiction. So those might be the times where it's okay to ignore a child, but by and large, the answer is no, and here's why. All right, so we're going to talk about why it's not a good idea to ignore and then what to do instead. That's my plan. But before we do, see that subscribe button there? That subscribe button is for you. When you hit that subscribe button, then you get to see more content from this channel. If you don't hit the subscribe button, then you might not see as much content from this channel. So hit subscribe now. So why isn't it a good idea to ignore? So if a child is needing help and you choose to ignore them because maybe you're wrapped up in something else, that child does not know who else to turn to, and they start feeling lonely, abandoned. When a child feels abandoned, they start processing things in a really intense way on the inside. So always making sure that you acknowledge a person is talking to you is a good idea. Even if you can't address the situation fully right then, you can say, I can see you want to talk to me about bedtime. It's not bedtime yet. We'll talk about it a little bit later. We can't talk about it now, but we will. I'm going to make a note of it. Well, now you didn't ignore what they wanted. They saw that they were heard, and it's okay to teach them to wait if it's not a good time. So I want to share with you a quick story. There was a moment years ago. My son, he was about 3 years old. This was my youngest, Porter. He came upstairs to me. I was in the kitchen and I was making dinner, and I remember I was stirring a pot. Everybody else was having like a family movie night or something, and so it was quiet. And when you're the mother of 4 children, life can get a little crazy, right? And so I'm just sitting there enjoying the quiet, thinking to myself, stirring the pot of food, and here comes Porter, and he says, Mommy, can I have a sippy of water probably, or milk or something? And I remember I just stood there stirring the pot. I think I just wasn't in the mood to talk to anybody. It wasn't that I didn't want to meet his needs. I literally did not listen. And so I was clearly ignoring him. And then suddenly I heard this sound of crying. And I thought, oh, someone's crying. You know, I'm like, oh, of course it's crying. And then it was like these words out of the mid-air came back to me. And the words were, Mommy, can I have a sippy of water? And I was like, oh, he thinks I didn't hear him. Well, of course. Why would he think I heard him? Because I didn't respond at all, right? So I went over to the stairs. I sat down next to Porter on the top stair. I looked at him. I put my hand on his face like this. And I said, oh, Porter, Mommy knows that you asked for a sippy of water and that you want a sippy of water and that I didn't act like I heard you. I'm so sorry. And at that moment, Porter took a big breath. And he was fine because he knew I had heard him, that I understood him. So what happened when he thought I wasn't understanding him? He was crying, he was distraught, he was alone, he didn't know how to solve his problem or where to turn to. But when I didn't ignore him and I went, wait a second, someone's there, and I went and handled it, he felt relief. He felt calm and like it was okay. He gave me a big hug and he smiled. And he was so happy to know that his need would be met. Our children have needs, and sometimes it's annoying to meet every one of them, especially if you have multiple children. You know, I know people who have 12 children, and to meet all those needs at once, that's a big job. But that doesn't mean that we just ignore some of those needs or ignore our child's behavior. If you ignore behavior, you actually are saying you are okay with the behavior. So later when you have a more extreme behavior, that is a problem. Same thing goes for if you ignore anything, by the way. If you're watching a television program with your children and something on that program is inappropriate, whether it's language or some other kind of content or something, and you say nothing, but sit there and continue to watch it, you're showing them that's okay. But if you turn it off or say that's not okay, because then they now know. But if you ignore it, you're endorsing it. So if you ignore your child's bad behavior because you don't want to deal with it one day, you're making a more intense problem for the next day. So just remember that. So what should we do instead? We should definitely at least communicate that we've seen what they want us to address. So maybe they have a behavior problem that we can't handle right now because we're at the store and we feel like it's not a good place or a good time. So we might say, okay, right now you're whining and complaining here at the store. What we're going to do is we're going to address this at home. Now, in my family, I would just address it at the store. I would just do an effective correction no matter where I am because it's just words, there's no emotion, everybody's calm, and I can just tell them they get the opportunity to earn their extra chore. It might be something they do at the store, or we might have them do something when we get home, but no big deal. I just stay consistent with my teaching and there's no emotion whatsoever. Lots of times I've noticed that parents who are more inclined to ignore their children are the ones who also are more inclined to get emotional. So if you're more inclined to get emotional, I have some help for you. I have something called a Calm Parenting Toolkit, which is the perfect baby step toward calmness if you need to just get going in that direction toward your own self-government. So it's a toolkit that has 10 tools for calmness, and it helps you along that path so that you can become calm when somebody else isn't. You can help them get calm without losing your calmness at the same time. In the description below this video, there is a link to the Calm Parenting Toolkit, and if you click on that link, you can have it for free. The link says teachselfgov.com/toolkit. It's the top link in the description. Click on the link in the description now, and you can have that Calm Parenting Toolkit for free. This will be a great start for your self-government journey. Click on the link now. I'll see you there.